Russell Westbrook has a new contract. Charles Barkley, unfortunately, has a new show. All that and more on this edition of the NBA Files and our inaugural show from Overbrook High School in West Philadelphia. Let's ball. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the NBA Files. That's Roy Burton. I'm Kwame Fisher-Jones. And today, we're going to start out with, I wanted to do something different, but we're going to start with Russell Westbrook.
All right.
Decided to re-up with the OKC Thunder.
Yes, sir.
Bucking all the nonsense of him going to Los Angeles, possibly coming to Philly. Before we get into the nuances of the deal, let me ask you a simple question.
Yeah.
Can you build a championship franchise around Russell Westbrook?
I would love for the answer to be yes. I just don't think you can.
Really?
I think Russell Westbrook is a guy, and I love Russell Westbrook. He's a top 5 guy. He relies heavily, his game heavily relies on hero ball. And hero ball only takes you so far. I mean, you can only go so far when one man is just going to try to physically impose his will on the game each and every night. I don't know if that works for a team that can make it to that can win a title.
See, here's the issue I have with that. First, I think you can.
Okay.
And in the press conference, you have someone ask the question, did it hurt or did it sting when Kevin Durant left, and he said, sting for who?
Right.
Like, it was just kind of like, no, I'm good.
Right.
I think with Russell's mentality, when he had Kevin Durant and he had James Harden, he had those guys, he was kind of allowed to just run around and do so because he didn't have the accountability of having to carry the franchise.
Okay.
He had the mentality that he could, he had the talent, and I believe he had the skill set, the work ethic, and all the things, all the intangibles, but he just didn't have to do it. So he could take shots early in the shot. He could be J.R. Smith on certain possessions. I think now with the weight of the franchise on his shoulder, we'll see a much more responsible player.
Okay.
You'll see a guy that is more diligent in his shot selection, but with the same ferocity. I believe you can, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited the fact that he decided to re-up with the team. I think that says so much. I think that was a subliminal screw you to Kevin Durant.
But you can't have a career that's built on screw yous to Kevin Durant. If Kevin Durant walks away from you and you sign in with the Thunder just to say, hey, you know what, Kevin Durant,
well, that's part of it.
What's the point of that?
Well, as part of it, but I also think he's looking at it's a 3-year deal, 2 or 3 year deal.
It's a 3-year deal, yeah.
I think he's looking at it in the short term, long term. The long term is this. OKC, Sam Presti has proven that he'll make good, sound basketball moves.
Agreed.
I don't know if Golden State has proven that. Jerry West has proven that. But I've told you before, bringing in Kevin Durant was not a good, strong, sound basketball move. The smarter move would have been to bring in Al Horford. So they decided to go Kevin Durant. That's a story for another day. But when you look at Westbrook's decision, I believe it was a smart decision because OKC still has a good team.
They do.
And adding Oladipo changes the complexity of the defense, the way they can run the defense. They'll add another player. So it wasn't just a screw you of Kevin Durant. It's a screw you that it's a chip on his shoulder. It's the size of the Grand Canyon. He's going to carry throughout the season. That's going to elevate him. I'm excited about the move for him as a fan. I'm excited about it for the NBA because it shows that a small market team can keep a big-time player.
That's a
so
good point.
throw that crap out of the window.
That's a good point.
It shows that guys are loyal, so throw that crap out of the window. And it shows that you have guys in the NBA that have that mindset that I can do it, I don't need to go align forces. And it showed the difference mentally in Durant and Westbrook.
But let me just kind of circle back to my original point. When have we seen a situation like this actually work with a player? Again, Russell Westbrook is a unique kind of talent.
Okay.
When have we seen a player generally of the same caliber as Russell Westbrook single-handedly carry a team to the NBA Finals like this?
Well, we got Allen Iverson, who brought you, me, and 5 other people to the NBA Finals.
Right.
LeBron James did it. Now, as far as winning, that's a major question.
Right.
Because I argue with people that I believe Kevin Garnett did it when he went to the Boston Celtics. Because Ray Allen didn't become phenomenal or I don't want to say become, but he was more clutch with the Cavs or with the Heat than he was with the Celtics. And Paul Pierce was always Paul Pierce. He's a good player. But so I would say Kevin Garnett did it twice. That's a great question. We'll take it into the break. I'll give a minute to take my notes, and I'll give you a better answer. NBA Files.
Welcome back to the NBA Files. Roy Burton, Kwame Fisher-Jones. And we're going to continue the discussion about Russell Westbrook and whether or not he is enough to bring OKC their first NBA title. Now let's talk about Russell Westbrook again. We both think that he is primed for one of the most incredible statistical seasons we've ever seen out of anybody in the NBA. I'm thinking personally he might go for 29, 8, and 8 like every single night because we saw what he did without Kevin Durant when Durant was hurt a couple of years ago. But does that translate to wins? Because they didn't win when Kevin Durant was down before. Is Russell Westbrook and now Victor Oladipo and a couple pieces they've added this offseason, is that enough to get them in that 50, 55 wins that they'll need to be an elite team in the Western Conference?
You know, I'm thinking about your question. And as we broadcast our first inaugural show here at Overbrook High School, West Philadelphia, the high school, Castle on the Hill, and you mentioned statistics. This is home of maybe the biggest statistical giant ever in Wilt Chamberlain.
Absolutely.
And Wilt did it. You know, he was on one of the greatest Sixers teams of all time.
Yes.
But the Lakers team that he won a title with, their leading scorer was Gail Goodrich. Jerry West was a shell of himself. Elgin Baylor got hurt 9 games in. You know, I would argue with people that Happy Harrison, the power forward that most of you have never heard of, was probably their best player. So at this point, I take you there to bring you. At this point, Westbrook is at a bit of an impasse in his career. Where physically he's in his prime, but mentally he's in his prime as well. He's got a coach in Billy Donovan who can put it. What did he have? 18 triple doubles or 8 triple doubles last season?
I think it was like 18. Yeah.
You know, he's with a coach that's going to find a system that's going to work. And when you can get a motivated player who statistically, like Wilt, can stuff the stat sheet, but to get him to do other things and elevate the players around him, it works. And you'll see guys, you know, Oladipo's a talent. Scott Skiles couldn't get him to go, but Oladipo's a talent.
Right.
You're adding that talent. You know, Sam Presti will find somebody else.
Yeah, you already have Steven Adams. You have, you know, Ilyasova you got in that deal. You got Donatas Sabonis in that deal, and it's Canner. I mean, you have a nice, you know, amount of talent on that team. But again, we've seen a talented team. We've seen a Westbrook, Ibaka-led team before not get to the playoffs, not get to 41 wins.
Ibaka was a hindrance.
Well, not get to 41 wins. I mean, like, how are they going to make the leap to the Western Conference elite without the premier scorer in the NBA?
Because you got a different mindset.
Okay.
You know, you're not missing. It's like when you've got it. You just brought your car. You have a car, and your car needs repairs, but you're looking like, you know what? I'm going to buy a new car. So you don't worry about making the repairs on the current car you have because you're already fixated on getting another car.
Okay.
So when the injuries happen, you know, their mindset is, okay, we just got to get through this because better days are ahead. We got other guys coming.
Right.
Well, you know, to borrow a famous phrase, Kevin Durant ain't walking through that door. And even if he does, it ain't coming with a title. And he left you for someone else in hopes that they win a title.
Right.
And we know super teams don't work.
Not immediately.
We know that.
Not immediately.
Well, super teams don't work.
Okay.
So you're adding all that in your pot. You're stirring it. And I have this vision of Kevin Durant walking around Golden State, the Bay Area, waving to people like Rocky. And I think it's like Rocky 3. He's waving like Rocky's on the steps. He's champion. And Russell Westbrook's in the gym like Overbrook by himself. Nobody. Like Clubber Lang doing crunches.
Right.
Hearing all the noise. Hearing everybody just getting motivated. And you already have a guy that's a self-motivated player. He doesn't play the moment. He doesn't play the score. He plays the game nonstop.
Right.
And he knows that, yes, every game, he plays with a ferocity that every game is his last, but he realizes it's a journey.
Right.
I'm so excited about it. The fact that he re-upped with OKC is kind of like I said, it's a subliminal screw you to Kevin Durant.
It is. No, it is. But okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, like that can't be like your prime motivation. Just
it's part of it, though. He's got a bucket of motivating factors. It's game 46. He's in Milwaukee.
Right.
Or he's in Philadelphia. You know,
yeah.
and they're playing a losing team, but somehow the Sixers have managed to stand, and they're down by 5 with 4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Right.
And every day, you know, it's their 5th game in 7 nights, and everybody's tongue is dragging. Westbrook is going to go back to that moment. He's going to go back to that gym, and he's going to find a way to get it done. I think we're going to see something great this year, man, something we haven't seen. And like I said, as we broadcast in our inaugural show here at Overbrook, I think we're going to see, you know, maybe not a 7-footer lead the league in assists, but we'll possibly see the first maybe guard average a double-double. since Tiny Archibald. NBA Finals. Welcome back to the NBA Finals, broadcasting here from Overbrook High School in West Philadelphia. You know, as we spoke about Russell Westbrook and what Kevin Durant left behind, we'll talk a little bit about what Kevin Durant joined.
Yes, sir.
Now, I hope we can go back and throw a little clip in of me saying, speaking about Klay Thompson and how he was going to adjust. That was the biggest question I have, because Klay Thompson was the dog in the yard.
Yes, sir.
Steph Curry's good player, flashy, you know, good scorer, but the best player on that team was Klay Thompson. And you're asking your best player to fall back, or so we thought.
Or so we thought, yes.
Klay Thompson has spoken this week, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, he has.
And he said, ain't no falling back coming on here.
That's not quite what he said, but
That's exactly
I don't think we
he
can
said.
say what he said exactly on the show.
His exact words were, I don't know why everybody's saying I'm gonna have to step back. No, we're gonna keep doing what we do, having fun making buckets. Now, I don't know what that says to you, but one thing we know about athletes, especially basketball players, majority of basketball players are scared to speak their mind.
Right.
So they'll give you little nuggets, you
Right.
know?
Right.
You know, they'll give you little comments you got to read between the lines. I'm not illiterate. I can read between the lines. Basically, what Klay Thompson just said is, I'm not stepping back.
That's right.
I've won.
Right.
He ain't won.
Right.
Comments, thoughts?
See, there's so much to unpack in this one. First of all, let's just start with this. Everybody's going to have to give a little bit.
I don't think so.
Everybody,
I don't think so.
It just doesn't work.
I don't think so.
Kevin Durant and Steph Curry are two of the top 8 guys in the league when it comes to usage, when it comes to ending possessions, okay? That can't work on the same team with Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. The numbers the math don't add up. Also on some level, everybody's got to take a step back. Now, somebody on the existing team is probably going to get hit more than anybody else. I don't know if it's Klay Thompson. It doesn't sound like it's going to be Klay Thompson.
No, because Klay Thompson said, and I quote, I'm going to keep running off screens and making shots.
It doesn't sound like Klay Thompson. It's going to be somebody.
Well, realistically, it would have to be Durant, because he hasn't produced. He's the new guy, but
See, I don't know.
I don't agree with you, though, that someone has to step back.
No, but you can't do it. Klay Thompson and Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, again, they basically accounted for 30% of their team's possessions last year, okay? So you can't add them together and just say, all right, the two of them are going to account for 60% of the Warriors' possession next year, because the math just doesn't add up.
It doesn't.
So somebody has to sacrifice and fall back.
It's going to have to be Kevin Durant. And I don't think, first of all, his mindset has already been to fall back. We watched him with Russell Westbrook. But the bigger issue is what's going to happen when they struggle.
Right, that's the big question.
Because there's only one boogeyman, if you will, and that's Klay Thompson. Kevin Durant is a lot of this, a lot of talking to Jersey, but no results. So where do you go? Because we've already seen Steph Curry is not going to step up and make people uncomfortable.
Right.
Draymond Green is going to remain whatever he's got going on in the offseason right now. And I'm not even going to touch that.
Leave it alone.
He's going to be who he's going to be.
Agreed.
And you can't rely on him to win for you. And, in the Game 7, if you're making shots, if Draymond Green is the one making shots, I'm comfortable if I'm the opponent. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm looking at this from the outside. I'm like, I saw this coming. Klay Thompson is headed into his prime.
Right.
He's heading into his prime. He's regarded as one of the best at his position and becoming one of the best players. And you're asking him to stop.
Right. Right.
It's not going to happen.
Again, these guys have been big men on campus, AAU stars, high school stars. These guys have been absolutely at the top of their game for the past 10 plus years. To ask for these guys to fall back is the most unnatural thing they've ever done in their lives.
Not these guys, him.
Well, not even, but Curry's going to have to give some. Draymond's going to have to give some. Kevin's going to have to give. You saw with the Heat. They all had to give a little bit.
Except for LeBron.
Well, LeBron had to give a little bit.
What did he give? What did LeBron give?
LeBron gave up shots.
LeBron's mindset isn't a scorer.
No, but LeBron gave up shots when
and
he
he
came
took
to Miami.
more responsibility, though, in carrying the team.
Right.
When he came up and said, it's my team, they won.
Right. When he did, though, it took a year.
But Klay Thompson ain't waiting. He don't have LeBron's mind. It's hit Klay Thompson, my team now. He's got a T-shirt that says "My team." So I mean, it's not.
But that's,
it's my team.
That's not going to work year one. Well, you agree? We both agree.
No,
it's not
I don't
work.
think it's going to work at all. I think they're going to have to make a trade.
It's not going to work year one, at least.
I don't think it's going to work at all. I think they're going to have to make a trade. And it's funny. I actually believe OKC has a better year. NBA Finals. Welcome back to the NBA Files. I dropped a nugget on you before we left. I said I thought the Thunder would have a better year than the Golden State Warriors.
Right.
And I want to elaborate on that before we transition to our next topic.
Okay.
I believe the Warriors will go further. I believe the Warriors will have a better record, perhaps, but I think the Thunder will have a better playoff, provided they stay healthy. You know, provided injuries, of course, change the dynamic. But you're dealing with a team in the Thunder that just, they're not as bad. It's not as woe is me as people think.
Oh, it's not, no.
And I'm looking at a team, and you sit back and you watch the Warriors, everybody's gunning for them. And they got stronger in a place where they were already strong.
Right.
They didn't lose the NBA Finals because they couldn't score more buckets. It wasn't the fact that Harrison Barnes missed shots.
Right.
It's the fact that they couldn't play defense. They couldn't get a rebound when it mattered. They made bad turnovers. They're adding a guy who doesn't play defense, who makes bad turnovers in the fourth quarter. You know what I mean? And who can make shots. So, yeah, I'm looking at it and the raw scope of things. I do believe the Thunder will have a better year.
Okay.
The Warriors will have a better record. They may go around further in the playoffs, but when you look at expectations versus results, the Thunder will have a better year.
Okay.
You know,
When you couch it like that, expectations versus results, I'll give you that, because I don't think that the Thunder's expectations are going to be necessarily high this year, although I believe they should be. I mean, I believe the Thunder should have high expectations because, as you get, again, the cupboard's not bare in Oklahoma City. However, the fact of the matter is the Warriors have to win 65 games and have to get deep into the NBA playoffs, or this was a failure. This is an abject failure if they don't at least get to the NBA Finals.
even you're calling it a failure. I think it's going to, if going to the NBA Finals is the goal, they've already accomplished that.
With this team.
You know, no. When LeBron lost to Dallas, it was a failure. No one looks at that Heat team as a success, and they were in the lottery for crying out loud. So no, you know, they don't win a title, and they've already won a title with those players.
Right.
So where's the success? You want to win another title? You had the boys in place to do it.
Right.
So no, there's no success for Golden State.
So title and nothing.
It's really nothing because they've already won. Now, as we talk about one overhyped, overvalued opinion, in my opinion, overhyped player. But as we talk about a player who hasn't produced, we're going to go to the man that is, if you look up player that hasn't produced, but talking about,
boy. Here we go.
Charles Wade Barkley. So if you've been following the news, Charles Barkley has a lot of opinions on a lot of things that don't concern him, about people who he really is never around. And Charles Barkley is getting a show called The Race Card. And on first glance, I said, why are we getting more of an African American who is on TV for people to laugh at, who mispronounces words, who uses poor grammar? Yeah, that's what I want, another representation. But I want to ask you this: why are people so fascinated with Charles Barkley?
He's always going to say something that leads that gets people going, whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it. Charles Barkley is the guy who, again, to use a sports talk analogy, he's the guy who gets the people to call in. He's the guy who lights the phone lines. I mean, I know you don't agree and he doesn't work for us.
No, I agree with it, but you know what also gets people going? A topless woman in the middle of the street during rush hour. But that's not productive. It's not good. It's like, okay, if you're just trying to incite people, I get it. But how long does that last?
Well, this is what TV is all about. TV is all about inciting people. I mean, this is what gets ratings. Get people. There's a reason why Inside the NBA has won nine Emmys. There's a reason why Barkley's won 2 Emmys on the show, because he gets the people going. He gets the ratings going. I mean,
it's provocative.
It's provocative, exactly. He's the lightning rod. I mean, like, again, Charles Barkley is filled with a whole bunch of opinions about things that don't and should not concern him.
And he's wrong all the time.
But the fact of the matter is, millions of people tune in to watch Charles Barkley say the things that he says.
Millions of people tuned in to watch Flavor Flav on Flavor of Love. that didn't make a good show.
No one's saying this is a good show.
Well,
Someone's saying, is this going to bring ratings? Why is Charles Barkley getting a platform? Because he is the guy who's going to bring in those viewers. That's why.
I disagree. I think it's not because he brings in the views. I believe, this is me speaking, I believe Charles perpetuates every stereotype that people feel about athletes and African American men. Charles Barkley gives credence to that.
Okay.
When you say, well, Magic Johnson's a businessman and Michael Jordan's a businessman and Isaiah Thomas is a businessman. Yeah, but look at Charles Barkley. He gambles, cheats on his wife, he has the worst grasp of English language I've ever heard anyone. He's a college dropout, never had a job in his life. He is by far the perpetuating stereotype that people point to, and that's why they keep giving him work. That's why he keeps getting Emmys, because he gives credence to everything that you try not to be. Everything in life you aspire not to be. You try to be taken serious as a basketball player. I mean, let's just start with his basketball career.
All right.
16 seasons in the NBA. How many of his teams won 50 or more games?
The Sixers won 50 games a couple times.
You think so?
They did. I know they did. I looked it up.
Yeah, I looked it up too.
I know they did.
4 times.
Okay.
In 16 years, his teams won at least 50 or more games 4 times.
How about the players who he played with on those Sixers teams?
Nobody wanted to play with him.
Who were the better players on those teams?
But you know what?
Who were the coaches of those teams?
That's fine, and that's great, and we'll get to that part. But I just want to deal with the facts of Charles Barkley's career. Just the facts, before we get into the opinion of players and everything. Now, I can divide. I'm not smart, but I can divide. That's one hot year every 4 years.
One hot year for his team, because by your basis, 50 wins is a hot year. So one hot year for his team every 4 years. Not for Charles Barkley himself, but for his team.
Okay, but you know what? And that's my point. You say Charles Barkley, let's just talk about Charles then. You don't want to talk about teams. Talk about Charles.
Yeah.
They called me and told me that we got Shaq. I started jumping around. Then they told me we got Charles Shackelford. We got the wrong Shaq. That's his teammate that the Sixers signed, who was coming off of a drug suspension the year before, trying to rebuild his NBA career. He walks into the franchise, and the leader of the team has that to say. What's wrong, Charles? We're going to be a bad team, a real bad team. That's the end of training camp, before the season started. Again, your leader. I go on and on and on. Got into a street fight in Milwaukee and had to be taken to jail. Wore Billy Cunningham's retired jersey number without the team's permission. Beats up Manute Bol. Complained said he was misquoted in his own book that he wrote.
Autobiography, yeah.
Started the season saying that the Sixers had a player on the team named Dave Hoppin, was a token white player. The only reason why he was there because the NBA didn't want an all-black team.
And during every one of those years that he said those things and did those things, he was either first or second team All-NBA. So that tells you a little bit of something of what he did on the court.
Yeah, and we argue about this all the time because success doesn't start when the lights come on. You don't win a title when the season starts, when the whistle blows.
You're not winning the title with Cliff Robinson and Ron Anderson.
But if nobody wants to play with you, that's all you're going to get.
So
he had a deal where he could.
Nobody wanted to play with Charles Barkley for the 6 years that the Sixers were his team.
Yeah. I mean, Scottie Pippen is on record as saying Michael Jordan said he'll never win a title because he would never get his fat butt into shape. Coincidentally, Jason Williams wound up being an All-NBA performer, had 1 or 2 good seasons.
A couple of years, yeah.
Said that Charles Barkley almost ruined his career. Told a story of Charles Barkley arriving 5 minutes late to practice, sitting on an exercise bike, eating McDonald's breakfast. Now, McDonald's is known to cut carbs and keep you in great shape.
That's right.
As he dipped his pancakes in butter and extra syrup.
That sounds really good, actually.
And called his teammates fat and lazy.
That sounds pretty good.
This is a dude who, at a meeting with the owner, pointed to guys in his locker room and said, this guy sucks and this guy sucks. Oh, by the way, Charles, you can't get out of the second round of the playoffs. Charles Barkley's on footage, gambling on a pass in the NBA Finals, putting his team in jeopardy, forcing Dan Marley to come down on Horace Grant, forcing John Paxson to be wide open, game over, NBA champion Chicago Bulls. He should not be talking about anything.
Anything. Wow.
Anything. And these are just facts.
Wow. Okay.
Now, we can go to opinion about guys, him not playing with teams. Hershey Hawkins played in the NBA Finals without Charles Barkley.
Okay, so we're going to throw random dudes out there.
Okay, but my point is,
Finals.
there were guys that produced, and there have been players in the NBA who've taken lesser teams to the NBA Finals.
I would like to see somebody take Cliff Robinson and Mike Jaminski and Andre Turner and guys like that to the NBA Finals. I would like to see who could have done it. I mean,
I would like to see,
there ain't that many guys.
I would like to see Brad Daugherty want to play with a man that says, this is the kind of game that if you lose, it makes you want to go home and beat your wife.
Oh,
yeah, I want to play with him. Can I play with him?
Charles Barkley is a terrible person. That doesn't make him a terrible basketball player.
NBA Files.
Welcome back to the NBA Files. Roy Burton, Kwame Fisher-Jones, and we'll continue the discussion on Charles Barkley. We'll pivot it a little bit, and we'll talk about Charles.
No need to pivot. No need to pivot.
Come on, I want to pivot it because I want you to put Barkley in the place you think he belongs in Sixers lore. Now, we've had discussions about this, before the show, off the air, about whether or not Charles Barkley is a top 5 Sixer, whether he's on your Mount Rushmore, however you want to call it. Is Charles Barkley one of the greatest Sixers of all time?
No.
He's not.
And, we're in the home of the greatest Sixer of all time, Overbrook High School, Wilt Chamberlain. And it's great that we're having this discussion because you went into break on a comment. You said Charles Barkley's a terrible person. I don't know if he's a terrible person. I don't know him personally. I'm just going off the facts that I have that built a resume that somehow has warranted him to be a voice in society. I mean, he threw a 5'9" man through a glass window. When asked about it, he said, "I wish we were on the second floor."
Yeah.
He's 6'4". 300 pounds. He threw a 5'9" man through a window. Wow. He's big. He's tough guy, big guy. I don't think he's just basketball-wise.
Just basketball-wise.
No.
Okay.
You got Wilt, Doc, AI, all right, and Moses. Those are your 4.
Okay.
Would you agree with those 4?
So no knock on Moses because he wasn't here long enough.
No, because when he was here, he got it done. And he was here significantly. He was here for a significant amount of time. He was one of the top players in the league in that time he was here. And Moses was traded. I don't know if Moses wanted to be traded because we don't know. Moses kept to himself a lot, so you don't know. So we don't know if he wanted to be traded, but we know Charles wanted to be traded.
Right.
Like Charles did everything he possibly could. 12 technicals and 20 games. Like Charles did everything he wanted to do to get out of here. And I would even say Al Greer is a better basketball player.
So no knock on Moses, and obviously no knock on Wilt, because Wilt was only here 3.5 years, but the 3.5 years he was here, the 3 full seasons he was here, he won MVP each year that he was here, and he was the leader of the at that point the greatest team in NBA history. So who's on your list again? You have Wilt, you have Moses, AI,
Hal
Greer, Julius. Is that your list? Okay, so no Charles Barkley.
I mean, you could throw Billy Cunningham on that list. He's arguable. Bobby Jones. I mean, Bobby Jones isn't a better player than Charles.
Okay.
But if we're dealing with factually, I believe those are your top 5.
Okay.
Personally, I would put Andrew Toney on that list.
Really?
His career was cut short by injuries, but when Toney was healthy, he was the best in his position. He was one of the reasons why they got Dennis Johnson in Boston to stop Andrew Toney. So yeah, I would put Toney on it. But here's the thing: when you talk about top 5 Sixer, you have to include results. You have to include results. Because if not, you're just talking about number whores, and then you're adding Dana Barrows and Willie Burton into the list.
So you're not getting it. But if you're talking about Sixers, you have to talk about guys who, during their career in Philadelphia, were the best in the league at their position. Charles Barkley was a top 10 guy for seven out of his 8 years as a Sixer. And the first year was his rookie year.
Because he bullied the organization into keeping bad players. And I won't say he bullied them to purposely get bad players, but he didn't want good players.
Hershey
Hawkins said Charles Barkley was his hardest critic. And this was a dude who came from a small school in Bradley, who was struggling to adjust. Charles Barkley tried to beat him up. He purposely tried to sabotage Jason Williams.
Good players are terrible critics. We've seen this. We saw this in Chicago Mike got in fights
He
with
wasn't
everybody.
hard on Rick
Mike got
Mahorn.
in fights with everybody.
But he wasn't hard on Rick
But
Mahorn.
Mike wasn't hard on everybody in Chicago.
Yeah, he was.
He was hard.
Mike was hard with everybody, but the difference was Mike also was there 2 o'clock in the morning. Mike also hit the weights. He did everything so he could be great in the end result.
So your issue with Charles Barkley is that he was a bad teammate.
No, my issue with Charles Barkley is my issue with Charles Barkley is he sucked. Like, you know what? I don't need a paperwork or anything to say that. He sucked.
Okay.
He's not a good analyst. All right, he's on a podium. Okay, but I'm dealing with it all. He's on a podium with Shaquille O'Neal, who's also not that good of an analyst, NBA title. Kenny Smith, NBA title. Ernie Johnson, one of the best. And then you have a guy who just burst terrible out there, and people say, oh, that Charles is great. He sucks, and we'll get into specifically the level and height of his sucktivity, but he sucks. NBA Files. Welcome back to the NBA Files here at Overbrook High School. Kwame Fisher, Jones, Roy Burton. The discussion is Charles Barkley. And I said he sucks. And that could be a bit harsh. You said he doesn't suck because he was 6'4" and he dominated the post position.
Dominated, yes.
Okay, whoop-de-damn do. He making it to the second round of the playoffs isn't dominating.
Okay.
It's not dominating.
Okay.
When he played with Phoenix, he went to one NBA Finals, cost him the title.
Cost him the title. Wouldn't have been there without him, but whatever.
Okay, you know what, that's fine. The only reason why they made it there is because he played on the Dream Team and was forced to be in shape.
Okay.
Outside of that, they held 2-0 leads the next 2 years and lost to Houston Rockets. A team that I think we all would agree to a man was not as talented as Phoenix.
Agreed.
You know, then he starts ring chasing, which is another reason I have an issue. He's a king of contradiction. Kevin Durant, Kevin Durant, Kevin Durant shouldn't be chasing rings. Kevin Durant, players are chasing rings. LeBron James shouldn't be chasing rings. It's disrespectful. He is on record as saying, I'm not a good player, I'm not a great player, I'm a good player, but with Clyde and Hakeem, I got a good chance to win a title. So he ring chased.
He chased rings, yeah.
What, okay, here, let's lift it to positivity.
Yes, please.
Let's be positive.
Please.
What makes Charles Barkley a person you want to hear from and who you believe is a great player?
So you were asking, first, let's break this apart.
Yeah, I'm asking a two-part question.
Yeah, like the person I want to hear from, he's not the guy.
Okay.
Like, he's
so
on
we
record.
agree.
Yeah.
He sucks on that part too.
We agree that Charles Barkley is not a person I want to hear about.
On anything.
Yeah, I was going to say talking about race or anything for that matter. Like, he's already on record saying that he watches Scandal when the NBA is on. So a guy who doesn't even watch the games he's paid to watch isn't a guy I really care to hear from, you know, on TNT. But that's neither here nor there. Let's
you know, I'm going to give you back to Mike. I just got to say this.
Okay.
And I don't hang out with Charles Barkley.
Clearly.
I don't know Charles Barkley personally. But for a dude that spends a lot of time talking about the black community, I question how many times he's with anybody in the black community when he's not paid to do so. Floor is yours.
I don't disagree.
You know, I mean, and I just want to throw this point. I'm going to get the mic back to you.
Right.
I just got to throw this out. He underperformed as a player. Habitually. He underperformed as a player. Okay, you say the Sixer teams were bad. Fine. When he went to Phoenix, he had a squad.
He had a nice team.
No, Roy.
He had a nice
no,
team.
Roy.
He had a
didn't
nice
have
team.
a nice team.
He had a nice team.
He had a great team.
He had a nice team.
He had a
went
collection
to the NBA
of
Finals
talent.
the first year, and then he lost to the NBA champions the next 2 years.
That he held 2-0 leads.
He lost to the NBA champions 2 years in a row.
That he was up 2-0, and you know why they couldn't sustain? Because he was always out of shape.
Okay.
That matters. But go ahead. Let's talk about this as a player. What made him a great player?
Purely on basketball ability and talent, he's not one of the greatest power forwards of all time. You would disagree with that. Purely on
I
what
wouldn't
he
have him
did,
in my top 10, though.
what he did on the court.
I wouldn't have him in my top 10.
What he did as a Sixer. Because again, I know you're not big on numbers.
You know what? I watched him play as a Sixer.
All NBA teams don't matter.
So what? Steve Nash is a two-time MVP.
Forget MVPs. I'm talking about all NBA.
Doesn't.
Consistent against your peers, rated against your peers. Charles Barkley was a perennial All NBA first or second team guy.
I'm gonna answer a question for you. And I'm gonna answer it with an example. All right. You always hear it's the loudest voice. All right. And we get confused at times. We say the loudest voice is the majority.
Right.
When it's really just the vocal minority.
Right.
He was the loudest voice on a bad team.
Okay.
So he drew attention to himself. That played a role in the claim. Because Karl Malone was a better player. Sean Kemp in his prime was a better player. Dare I say Derek Coleman in his prime was on par. So the bottom line is they weren't spitting on girls in the stands.
I knew that was coming.
No, but I'm not making them up.
No, you're not.
They weren't
You're
calling
not.
their teammates out. They weren't questioning ownership. They weren't fighting teammates. You know, they weren't calling the media racist. Those brought attention to you. So you're watching and say, wow, this guy does a lot of great flashy things. He plays very little defense. But he does a lot of flashy things. He's a great player. And when you add it all together, it's Philadelphia in a microcosm. It's Philadelphia. Philadelphia is dying to be relevant. And in their pursuit of in their desire of being, you know what? I'm gonna hold it because it's Charles Barkley is the reason why Philadelphia doesn't recognize talent.
The reason.
He is. It's the reason why people hate Lindros. So seriously, it's the reason why they hated McNabb. Production doesn't matter. It's just being loud. You know, it's just being loud. NBA Files. Welcome back to Overbrook High School, NBA Files. Roy Burton, Kwame Fisher-Jones, discussing Charles Barkley and the ridiculousness that is he. I'm going to tie this up because I sucked up a lot of time in there, but I just want to say this. I want to elaborate on a point. Philadelphia is dying to be relevant. So in that desirous attempt, they will accept things that get people to talk about them.
Okay.
All right? That's what Charles Barkley did. That's why he's so loved. That's why people believe he's as good as. Because if you just look at the merit with the production on the court, it doesn't match up.
Doesn't match up.
It doesn't. I mean, and I'm going to throw it back to you.
Okay.
Donovan McNabb got a franchise with no wide receivers. Who offensively didn't have much talent.
Oh, they were terrible. Yeah.
Ravaged in injuries to 5 consecutive NFC titles or championship games. He's looked at as a loser and a buffoon. Charles Barkley couldn't get out of the second round of the playoffs, got swept by Patrick Ewing, and is looked at as some sort of hero. Something wrong with that picture.
There is, and we don't have enough time to get into that. But there is. There's a definite difference between how Charles Barkley is embraced in this town and how others, including Donovan McNabb, who've had more success in this town, are embraced by the fans.
So, you know, I bring all that back to bring it full circle. What made him a great player? Not a flashy player, not a good player. What made him a great player?
But again, I think, let's go back to your last point. You're saying, is he a great player or is he a great player in the minds of Sixers fans? Because there's a little bit of difference
I'm asking you as a basketball guru. Do you believe he was a great player?
I believe he was a great player.
Why?
Yes. Because again, for his size at that position, he did things that basically should not have been done. If
he's 6'8", do you believe he's a great player?
If he's 6'8", I don't believe he's as good as he is.
Okay.
I mean, it's a little bit like the same thing with AI. If AI was 3 inches taller, he wouldn't be the same. He wouldn't be as thought of as being the same. You wouldn't think of him the same way. You wouldn't. You shouldn't. You shouldn't think of a 6'2" guy doing that as opposed to a 5'11" guy doing what he did. It's a little bit different.
Okay.
It's a little bit different.
Going back to Barkley. So, the intangibles, the things that he was working with.
Not even the intangibles. I'm sorry. Go
ahead.
I said, but not even the intangibles. What we saw on the court, the 6'4" guy, power forward, rebound, run the break. Again, the man, perennial best player at his position, multiple years in a row. I mean, you just can't, he is again, and the reason why they Philly embraced him is because he was the underdog. He was the undersized guy fighting with the team, going into gunfights with knives, fighting every single night to try to make the Sixers great. That's why he's more beloved.
The knife instead of the gun. Why are people like, oh, he went into a gunfight with a knife? He picked the knife.
He didn't pick the knife.
If he gets in shape, seriously.
Okay.
If he gets in shape and he's committed to winning, not talking about winning, committed to winning and doing the things, as I've said time and time again, you don't win, you don't become great when the lights come on.
Agreed, absolutely.
You're great when it's dark, when it's raining, and it's drizzle, and no one's around. That's when you become great.
Right.
When the lights are on, it's over with. That's the end result. He's the one, he was his own oppressor in that regard.
I don't disagree at all.
So how can you,
that doesn't make him not great though.
But if they're self-inflicted wounds, how can you celebrate the wounds?
But you can, but there's plenty of guys who self-inflict their own wounds. And again, Allen Iverson couldn't have been greater, but he chose not to be. There's other guys who could have been greater, who could have put in that work when the lights were off. That doesn't make them bad players. That just makes them not as committed as they should be.
I believe Allen put in work. I don't believe he put in as much work. but there were a lot of different intangibles. And that, you know what? We're going to get into that. We'll close the door on Barkley. We'll compare the two.
Okay.
You know, we'll get into that now. But just a final note on Barkley. When you totality, his career,
Yeah.
you really hold him in the same breath as the Jordans, the Thomases, the Birds, the Johnsons, and then going into the 90s, the Malones and the Stocktons. You hold him in that breath.
He's on a level below those guys. He's not on that level.
Okay.
But he's on a level below those guys.
I think he's 5 or 4 pegs down, but, you know. When we come back, we're going to get into Iverson and Barkley and what stopped them from winning titles, the NBA Files. Welcome back to the NBA Files. We're pushed against it. I posed the question. You say that Allen Iverson didn't. Why do you think Charles Barkley didn't win a title, and why do you think Allen Iverson didn't win a title at their time in Philadelphia?
I think it's the same. Well, I think there's similar circumstances for both of those guys. And I think they're tied together in the fact that they didn't have great supporting cast. Neither one of those guys had a great supporting cast. Now, Allen Iverson had a better coach, and I think Larry Brown figured out the way to structure a team around Allen Iverson to best play up his strengths, which is why the Sixers got farther. But I don't think either one of them had the right guys or the right mix of guys around them to elevate the entire team to NBA Finals level talent.
So you think it was a talent thing?
I think it was a talent issue.
Both of it starts with them. They're the reason why they didn't win a title. In the case of Charles Barkley, he didn't get the most out of his ability. Yeah, he was 6'4", he could jump out of the gym. But as I said, you know, Jordan was 6'5", and could jump out of the gym. Isaiah was 6 feet and had the heart of a champion. Bird was 6'8" and could shoot from anywhere in the gym. Everybody had something great about them. It was about what you could do with it. You know, there's a difference between talent and ability. You know, Barkley had talent, but he didn't make the most out of his ability. Conversely, I think Allen got the most out of his talent and ability.
Oh, I disagree.
The problem with Allen was he didn't want to be the leader. And there is where he lost it. Because, look, Larry Brown enabled him. I don't think he was a good coach. He enabled him.
He was a good coach in that he built a team around AI that fit well. They just weren't good players.
He found 4 tender dudes who wouldn't complain about shooting. That's what he did. That's what he found 4 tender dudes who wouldn't complain about shooting because it was easier to tell George Lynch to give Allen the ball than to tell Allen to give George Lynch the ball. He got rid of the guys who would have brought a title. And like I told you before, Derek Coleman. He didn't want to draft Paul Pierce.
Right.
You know, and we talk about Dirk Nowitzki. We even go past that. Chauncey Billups. You know, Jamal Tinsley, Tony Parker. Those are all guys they had opportunities to get. He didn't want to fight that fight.
Right.
He enabled Allen Iverson. So I don't believe he was a good coach. I actually think he hindered Allen's career. Because Allen would have done the things he did if Randy Ayers was the coach. He still would have been a phenomenal scorer. Because, truth be told, Johnny Davis switched AI to shooting guard. It wasn't Larry Brown. It wasn't Larry Brown. It wasn't Larry Brown. It was Johnny Davis. Put Doug Overton at the point, stack outside the 3.
Right.
So, no, talent to an extent, but it started and ended with those guys. Allen had a better shot to win a title if he manned up and said, you know, maybe if he had a little bit of Charles's lack of caring for his teammates.
I think he had enough of lack of caring as far as coming to practice.
Well, Bill Russell didn't practice.
I'm just saying, you're talking about guys putting in time when the lights are off. Practice is a time when those lights are off. AI decided not to go to practice quite a bit. Quite a bit.
Well, look, I agree with you, but there are great players who didn't practice. Karl Malone.
I know Wilt didn't practice. I know we're in Overbrook, but I'm going to say it. Wilt didn't like to practice.
Wilt is famous for saying you get 2 choices. You can get me for the games or the practices. You choose which one.
Exactly.
True. You know, but those are settings. Look, in the end, 2 players that have come through this city that the city celebrates because the city doesn't know how to get a champion. That's it for this edition of the NBA Files. Make sure you tune in for some overtime, unedited footage on theNBAFiles.com. As always, for Roy Burton, I'm Kwame Fisher-Jones. We appreciate your time here. We'll see you next week.